All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video, another WNBA off-season video. In this video, we're going to go over three dream off-seasons for three more teams to make it six in total. My last video, I did three. This one is going to be three more. The final three, these three teams are going to be the Minnesota Lynx, the Indiana Fever, and the New York Liberty. We're going from the West Coast to the East Coast. By the end of this, we will be at the East Coast. There is also some WNBA news that broke over the weekend that I want to talk about briefly here at the beginning. So if you like what I say, like the video. If you have any opinions, comment down below. And if you just like the vibes, consider subscribing. We will get to the free agency stuff here in a moment, but we have some huge news coming out of the WNBA. Okay, so this has been rumored for a little while now. There has been some controversy about this, and it is the potential sale of the Connecticut Sun in the WNBA. This has been sort of floated around, and there was I think even I made a video at the time where we didn't know what was going to happen. There was talks of the current owners keeping it. There was talks of maybe Boston Celtics, that ownership group, the new one that just bought the Boston Celtics, also buying the Connecticut Sun and bringing them down to Boston, but keeping him in the Massachusetts, Connecticut sort of area. And neither of those things came through. There was some shady like backroom stuff with the WNBA itself, like the how do you say it? The offices of the WNBA, WNBA commissioner, and the fear always was the Connecticut Sun being sold and then them being relocated. And the main relocation location was um, back to Houston to revive the Houston Comets, a very successful organization in their time. And WNBA fans were very mixed on this. The mass majority wanted them to stay in Connecticut. The Connecticut Sun are one of the only teams without a NBA counterpart in their city. You know, the Los Angeles Sparks have the Los Angeles Lakers. You know, the Valkyries have the Warriors. Um, a new franchise, the Portland Fire, have the Portland Trailblazers. You know, so there usually is a component that it's easier for some owner to own both the WNBA team and the NBA team, or just have them coexist in the same city and use the same facilities and all that stuff. Um, because women's basketball is important and they deserve to have the same treatment in the same facilities as their male counterparts. So it's just easier to keep them together. The Connecticut Sun, however, was one of those ones, the rare example where they didn't have an NBA counterpart, and they were on their own, and they were owned by this different ownership group. And we got news, and buzz over the weekend that the Connecticut Sun had been sold, and an official release was going to be made on Monday or Sunday. And this news broke on March 27th, 2026. Um, this is from their article. I won't read the whole thing, but I'll read some of it. Source: Sons sold to the Fertitta family will relocate to Houston. It says in the beginning of the article, the Connecticut Sun franchise has been sold to the Fertitta family, the owners of the Houston Rockets, in a deal that will bring the WNBA back to Houston, sources confirmed to ESPN on Friday. The sale is closing at $300 million, a record price for a WNBA team, and we did not include a relocation fee, sources said. The Suns will play their final season in, I don't even know how to say that, Connecticut in 2026 before relocating in 2027 to Houston. Had previously been vetted by the league as a potential city for expansion or relocation. An announcement is expected to be official Monday. The ultimate sale and relocation are pending approving and of by the WNBA Board of Governors. Sources say the franchise is expected to use the common name harking back to when the team was part of the league in 1997 to 2008, the iconic original franchise that won four straight championships from 1997 to 2000. So yeah, that was the whole main thing that broke this weekend, and it was rumored, and nothing was official, at least on paper. You always hear these things, and I talked about this. It might even be this time last year where um, the ownership group down the Connecticut Sun was considering selling, um, or at some point you could even say forced to sell. and they kind of put it off for a season. They had a pretty miserable season last season, the Connecticut Sun, and this came back up obviously after all the CBA stuff got done. Whatever sale couldn't happen without the CBA being done, so obviously they finished the CBA a couple weeks ago. It runs for a very long time, and the WNBA said, "Well, let's go back to this thing that was very controversial," and the WNBA can't stop themselves from having something that's just controversial always. And as somebody as somebody who likes expansion, as somebody who likes, new teams coming into any league, as long as there's parity and as long as there's the talent to fill those roster spots, and it brings new jobs to the um, area that they're going to or relocating to, I think it's positive. But at the same time, I will agree with some people on the internet that will say, this was all done the wrong way, and there's some other stuff that I'll probably get to in a much longer form video about the background of all this stuff and the sale and the not selling and wanting them to stay in Connecticut, but the WNBA wanting to revive the Comets because the Comets are way more freaking um, notable and identifiable to fans that aren't even WNBA fans than the Connecticut Sun. The Connecticut Sun have never truly been relevant. I mean, you have a huge population in Connecticut that loves basketball, obviously UConn basketball, both the women's and the men's side, and that's what they do in the Northeast, and they really love it. And Connecticut the Sun was I think one of the only franchises in Connecticut that like had a professional team, and to see them go in this sort of way is disappointing, and the meddling by the league is tough. Um, the Connecticut Sun did release a statement today, March 30th, at 8:32 in the morning. So we will read this bits of it. Let's get into it. The Mohegan has reached an agreement with Tillman J. Fertitta's family, who will purchase the Connecticut Suns franchise pending WNBA approval. This follows Mohegan's diligent and thorough process of evaluating strategic opportunities for the team for more than 2 decades. The Mohegan tribe became the first independent owners in the WNBA, a reflection of Mohegan's forward-looking vision to bring a professional women's basketball team to our reservation. End quote. Mohegan owes an enormous amount of gratitude, first and foremost, to the extraordinary fan base cheering on the team for 23 incredible seasons. This team and what the talented women who have worn this uniform over the years has meant to the Mohegan Sun, our region, and the impact they've made both on the court and off the court has been nothing short of remarkable. That includes dedication of our front office and the invaluable collaboration and support we've received from the state of Connecticut, as well as from businesses and other community partners across the region and beyond. Joe Sober, a corresponding secretary for the Mohegan Tribe Council. And there's a couple other quotes in here from Jen Rizziotti, Connecticut Sun's president. Um, she said here in the quote, while the league continues to grow and evolve, our commitment is to honor this legacy and finish this final season together with pride. Um, Further on in the article and the press release, this is a moment of transition and reflection and anticipation of our future gains for the team, and the Connecticut Sun contributed in many ways to the growth of the WNBA and women's basketball, and that impact and legacy are permanent. This move is about powering the next chapter of growth for the WNBA. Yeah, I guess that's a positive way to look at it. Like at the time, the Connecticut Sun was um, looked at like something of an anomaly. Obviously, like they said, it was independently owned, and professional sports in Connecticut isn't really like that. Especially on the women's side. At least to my knowledge, I think this is the only professional women's team. There might be like a WNSL team or something. Um, and I think that's a very positive way to look at it, to say, hey, our time has run out, but this legacy will live on. And there's been a lot of, I'll say, interesting players that have worn the Connecticut Suns jersey. One that pops to my mind immediately is Alyssa Thomas. I remember watching her and what's her wife's name? Dewana Bonner and Dejanay Carrington. What a time to be alive. um, but uh, I I know for a fact that I've heard somewhere that the WNBA, I'll use the word, is taking away this team just to bring it back in a different fashion. And Boston will eventually get an expansion team here in the future. Um, we'll be up to 18 teams at some point. I think the max of the league could probably be 20. So you fit Boston in there, you probably fit a Florida team in there, another South um, East team in there, um, South team in there. You get to about 20. So it's unfortunate, but it's the way of business. And as have always said, business always wins. Big business always wins. And it's unfortunate because fans suffer sometimes. And yeah, there'll be more. I'll dive deep and more into this um, at another date. So yeah, that's the sale of that. I wanted to mention this at the beginning of this episode. Episode? I've never called these episodes before. At the beginning of this episode, because this sale has some implications with players wanting to sign or players wanting to stay in Connecticut. Or will some players sign knowing they'll move to Houston next year? Or will players leave because they don't want to play in Connecticut and they don't want to play in Houston? They want to have control of their own destiny. These are things we have to figure out. But there's only one player that is included on my list right now. That is a Connecticut Sun that I think um, might move on, perhaps, maybe. I don't know. But let's get into that. Like I said, we're going to talk about the Minnesota Lynx, the Indiana Fever, and the New York Liberty's dream offseason, in my opinion. I want to put a disclaimer at the front of this, right here at the beginning of this part of the video. I don't know people's relationships to other players. I don't know if they hate each other, like each other, unless I follow them personally, or I've heard something through the grapevine. I don't know those things. So if I pair up two people that have like beef or something or have like an issue with each other, I didn't know that, so I can't. That's my bad, but it is what it is. Also, this isn't supposed to be like 100% realistic. It's a dream off season. It's gonna be some like names that you're like, I don't know if they can do that. And the other thing I want to say is we don't know the market for a lot of these players. I use my way of thinking is usually, for the last video at least, was supermax, max, fair market value being that whatever the league dictates they are worth is that's what the team I have them going to will offer them, match them, and then I have obviously overpay, underpay for specific circumstances for specific teams. So just keep that all in mind when I go through this thought experiment, through this exercise. It's supposed to be a little realistic, but I do have some teams with some high turnover. I'm one of the people that think there's going to be high turnover regardless of teams trending upwards or trending downwards, and I think some players will chase a bag, and I do have one restricted free agent. That is a change from last time I did this video, last video. If you want to check out that video, I'll put a card in the top right corner. You can click it; it will take you right to the video, or I'll also link it at the end. And yeah, that's it. Let's get into it. Enough of me yapping. Enough of me doing that stuff. Let's move on to the first team here. Um, and I'll trickle in some news about various these teams and stuff I know about these teams as we go through this exercise here. So on the left side of your screen is all the players that I think the Lynx should get in free agency or keep. The first one, top left of your screen, Nafisa Collier. You give her the max. She's eligible for the max. You give her the max. She's a borderline MVP, Defensive Player of the Year type player. You give her the super max for her years of service and what she's done for the franchise since losing Maya Moore. She's come in and been the pillar of the rebuild and the success of this team, and sometimes the failure of this team. And um, she did, I should say, have double ankle surgery. this offseason, and that worries me a lot. And she's not going to be ready for opening week, is the thought right now. And if I'm the Lynx, I think I'm okay with that. If you don't offer her the supermax, as she was involved in these negotiations for the new CBA, I think she leaves. So I think your hands are kind of tied, and you just have to do it. Um, with that being said, however, I would like to see this team be more competitive and reshuffle the deck with the team around Nafisa Collier, because I think you've done enough with the team you've put together the last couple years. You made a couple finals runs. You made a finals run. You had a couple disappointing years, losing in bad fashion to teams that you were probably better than, but you just flamed out, or there was an injury or two, and that's the nature of winning a championship. Is, um, as I like to say, and other people used to say, it's 50% luck. It's 50% being healthy, and that's how you win a championship. That's really it. And obviously, there's like other factors that factor into winning a championship, but for me and a lot of people, 50% health, 50% luck, and you have the players that you have a group around a star player that propels you to a championship or at least the finals, and that's what the Lynx have had. But um, seeing as some of their players, um, like Courtney Williams, like Natisha Heidemann, to my knowledge and watching them, want to get paid. And if I'm the GM of the Lynx, I don't want to pay either of them. Both of them are so one dimensional and do not provide anything for me that screams championship. And they've had a couple tries. Um, Courtney Williams historically is a playoff sinker. If you look at the numbers, her playoff numbers, she sinks in the playoffs. And I need some more players that are more consistent. I need some more players that are legit. And with Nafisa Kale being injured, um, with her coming off an injury, um, I would like to rest her at some point during the season since the number of games is expanding to, I believe, 55. I want to cover all my bases, so to speak. So there's some fair turnover on this team. Players that are returning. The reigning Defensive Player of the Year, Elena Smith. I would offer her a near max, get close to the max, because I think she's at the peak of her powers right now. I don't think Alana Smith is getting any better, which is fine because she's the Defensive Player of the Year. You get a 4-year max, no strings attached. You just get to stay on the team, come back. Um, Her and the Fisa in the front court, amazing. I wish we could have seen more of it when both of them were healthy. But she gets a max. Another player returning, Kayla McBride, keep some continuity on the team with a 4-year deal. This could potentially be her last nice payday. So I I have my own problems with Kayla McBride, as somebody who was a fan of her when she was a Las Vegas Ace. I think she's very hit or miss in some playoff series, but you need to keep some continuity in the locker room. You need to keep some familiarity with the system that the coach likes to run. So you bring Alana, you bring Kayla McBride back. Obviously, you bring Nafisa Collier back, and you those are your core three, and you sort of move away from these one-dimensional players and Courtney Williams and Natisha Heidemann, and you're gonna lose some players to the expansion draft also, and because you can only protect 5 players, and you're gonna have some roster turnover anyway. So I say, um, if you have the roster turnover, and going with my mindset personally in this experiment that the Seattle Storm will reset, rebuild, and that will mean a lot of their vets are going to be on the open market. You can go grab one. I would go grab Erica Wheeler for fair market value. Um, she was very good in the playoffs last year. I believe, yeah, they played a hell of a series against the Las Vegas Aces. The Las Vegas Aces is a team that the Lynx are sort of looking upwards at instead of on the same playing field with, where you need to get to where they are. And Erica Wheeler played very well against them. I would try to go get Erica Wheeler for fair market value. A team option on the 4th year, a vet guard, way better in my opinion than Courtney Williams. This was not meant to be a Courtney Williams smear piece, but those are the facts. I go try to get Erica Wheeler. Um, Vet guard, very serious, um, and just better than Courtney Williams in my opinion. You go get her um, to help Kayla McBride, who I won't say is a bad defender, but is getting up there in age and shouldn't be asked to be a primary defender. I know Erica Wheeler is sort of up there in age as well, but she's at least that's more of her archetype through her career is being a defender, being a menace, being a disruptor, and hitting big shots, and that's all you really need. To help subsidize what Nafisa Collier will do, what Kayla McBride will do is bring in a player like Erica Wheeler. Another player I'd like to bring into the backcourt, funny enough, from the Aces, is Dana Evans. She proved she has some steady 3-point shooting games in her, and is now has championship experience. I would bring her in on a 2-year deal. I did not specify whether this would be fair market or like an overpay. I guess like fair market. Bring in a championship guard, somebody who can just come and hit a couple threes. Played with Asia Wilson, who plays very similarly to Nafisa Collier. You bring her in um, to sort of pseudo do the same thing she did with Asia, just with Nafisa. You bring Dana Evans in, who's a was a surprisingly good player. She's been in some weird situations. She was in Chicago. Um, I think it was before or after they won the championship, so she didn't get to enjoy the championship. I don't think so. Maybe I might be speaking out of my neck. Hold on. No, I misspoke. She was there. Yeah, she was there for the Chicago championship. So she's a two-time champion. Um, she's relatively, let's see, yeah, she's relatively young still at 27 years old. You bring her in to help the team sort of um, with the shooting. Um, I'm not saying she's better shooting than Courtney Williams. I'm not saying that, but she knows her role more than Courtney Williams does in trying to like take over a game and like do all this stupid stuff. Dan Evans is gonna sit in the corner, hit a couple threes, maybe drive to the basket a few times, and call it a day. That's really all you need in a championship team is people who know their roles and people who don't play outside their roles too much. But in those roles, will play have really big games for you. Um, and then we move on to some wild cards, some ones that aren't the most realistic, but I want to throw in here because of the recent news about the Connecticut Sun sale, with the thought that around the league that Nafisa Kali won't be ready for the start of the season, that you're going to need to bring in another body, another high volume scorer, with the obviously the loss of Courtney Williams. And only if you didn't bring in this player, you would only have Kayla McBride and Alana Smith as like your 1 and 2, which I don't love. I'm going to bring in somebody that is very similar to Nafisa Collier, um, that has shown some higher level of basketball than I think a lot of us thought she had in her, and that's Marina Mabrey. Throw her a nice bag, 2-year deal. Just if you have to overpay for it, I would overpay for it because this is insurance that if Nafisa can take her time, that we will not start the season bad, that we will at least be competitive in these games in the beginning of the season, and that we won't sink to the bottom and have to at the end of the season race our way back up to the top of the league. We'll be at least somewhat consistent. Um, get Nafisa Collier some front court help when she comes back, and let Marina Mabrey, just do her thing. Maybe what she did with at Unrivaled isn't unrealistic. Maybe she can do that in the WNBA a little bit. I would love to bring in Marina Mabrey, and the team consists of, at least at this point, in my vision of it, Nafisa Collier, Elena Smith, Marina Mabrey, Erica Wheeler, Kayla McBride, Dana Evans. Those are my players right now that I have on this 2026 Minnesota Lynx team. And looking at this, team just as a whole, when healthy, from 1 to 5, that's point guard to center. Erica Wheeler, Kayla McBride, Marina Mabrey, Nafisa Collier, and Alana Smith. I love that 5 already. That 5 is amazing. Another role player I want to bring in, keeping in with the theme of the Seattle Storm sort of rebuilding, and not wanting too many vets on their team. I want to bring in Alicia Clark, one more shooter, bring some size to, knows how to move the ball. I would give her a 1+1 year deal, so that's a 2-year deal in total, but there's a player option on the second year, so it's effectively a 1 year or a 2 year to the player's discretion. Um, I like Alicia Clark a lot. I think she's been not underrated, but she's somewhat consistent in her game. She has some experience on championship like teams. She's been around the league a lot. I'd love to bring her in. And the biggest swing and the player that is probably the most wacky because she's a restricted free agent, but I do want to try to bring her in when a player is a restricted free agent. Um, us, the Lynx, have to throw her a number, and her team, her current team, the Washington Mystics, can match that number or let her go. Um, that's restricted free agency for you. Um, I want to bring her in because it's another bigger body. I'm not necessarily tall, but strong and plays the center position. I would You would kind of have to overpay for her to get her off the Mystics. Um, I'm sort of going off the thought process that the Mystics want to continue to trend a little bit younger. Shakira Austin is young, but I think she's not necessarily on the timeline, in my opinion. So maybe they let her go. We'd have to see what the Mystics do in the draft. Um, this is also subject to change for the Lynx because the Lynx do have the second overall pick, and they might take a big anyway. So if you take a big, you don't need Austin, and you don't need to waste that money on Austin. You can go get another player. Um, uh, I thought about this one. I was like, this is probably one of the more unrealistic ones, but I like it well enough. I think here are my snippet at the end. Um, I know this is a shorter team on paper, but I wanted to bring some more switchability and some more consistent players on the team with the exit of Williams and Heidemann. This opens up the door for more serious and more dimensional players that V can feel more comfortable not having to do it all or have to be the only game to game option coming off a big surgery. So, yeah, this brings some more serious players. This brings some players that can help Nafisa Collier now have to rush back to a team that might be, sinking with the league being more competitive with you don't know what could happen. Free agency is going to be wild. So you bring in this team again that is Nafisa Collier, Elena Smith, Marina Mabry, Erica Wheeler, Kayla McBride, the second overall pick with the asterisk, whoever that would be. Um, Shakira Austin, Dana Evans, Alicia Clark. That is, what is that, 4, 8, 9 players. And then you have TBD results of the draft is another roster spot. And then you have a total of 12 roster spots. 2 are left, so that's a developmental player slash draft player, whoever you want to bring in to fill out this roster here. Let me know what you think about that team down below. Sort of, let's say a little unrealistic. I'm having fun. Okay. Let's move on to the next team, and this team, the Indiana Fever. This was kind of hard because this is one of those teams I feel like can be really hampered by the expansion draft and their players last year, their unknown players kind of showing up and kind of playing above their value when the expansion teams could see value in them in a bigger role, and you might lose some key pieces um, on this team. They also do have some players still under contract. Um, you do have some players that I think are likely to return. Um, I do want to mention I did make this 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 list, this roster, before Caitlin Clark's appearance as a special contributor on the NBC broadcast. And obviously, they asked her about the WNBA season, the CBA, all that stuff. And she said, her words, not mine, that she wants Kelsey Mitchell back. And they're going to protect her in the expansion draft. They're going to protect at least 5 players in the expansion draft. Kelsey Mitchell will be one of them. And they want to bring her back. Caitlin Clark wants her back. Personally, um, I think I don't want her back if I'm the Fever. I understand that she's the longest tenured player on this team. I think, yeah, longest tenured player on this team. She's done a lot for the organization. Caitlin Clark loves her. But in my mind, I see Kelsey Mitchell sort of like I'm using NBA comparison here, like Monte Morris to Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. And you'll figure out who Klay Thompson is in this roster in a minute, or the Klay Thompson like sort of role, where Monte Morris was a really good player, but the future was Steph Curry at that moment in time, and I feel like I'm not saying Kelsey Mitchell is stopping Caitlin Clark's progression. I think they make a really good backcourt. I would, if there was limitless time and time didn't move, I would love to see them play together for at least like 2 to 3 more years. See what they really have together, because they haven't really played a lot together. And Kelsey Mitchell and Aaliyah Boston and the rest of this ragtag group that was the Fever last year went to the semifinals, the WNBA semifinals, without Caitlin Clark. I would have loved to see the team with Caitlin Clark and see what they could have done, how far they could have gone, and maybe they could have won it all. Um, I'm saying all this to say this roster does not include Kelsey Mitchell, and that might be something Fever fans, if you're listening to this, might be uncomfortable with. I have a replacement. Don't worry. I have a replacement. I thought about this. And again, I made this list before. Caitlin Clark did like that mini interview, sort of contributing to the broadcast of the NBA games and all that stuff. So this was sort of before that. But I tried to make this roster as this is probably one of my more realistic ones, sans the Kelsey Mitchell replacement. Um, but let's get into it. The players that are under contract right now, and the ones that I will return, in my opinion. Caitlin Clark's still under contract. Aaliyah Boston's still under contract. Also, keep in mind, I try to keep some of these contracts very short because this team will have to pay Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston, perhaps the supermax. So I want to have some wiggle room over the course of the next couple years when their current contracts are up, so I can pay them and the cap will go up and I can sort of move more fluidly through this roster come in the coming years because I have to pay these two. If I don't play these two players, then I don't have a freaking team. So they're still in the contract. A player that, in my opinion, needs to return. If you're gonna get rid of Kelsey Mitchell, because they're probably the next longest tenured player on this team, is Lexi Hull. She's a free agent. You throw a little bag at her, throw a little payday at her for her years of service on this team. She was there when they were bad. She's here when they're good. You gotta keep some continuity with the team and some familiar faces around the team. You give her a 3-year deal with a team option on the third year. You're gonna pick up the team option on the third year. Caitlin Clark likes her. Leah Boston likes her. She was well liked in the locker room. She's well liked by fans. This is just covering my ass in case there's something that happens with her on the third year. We can just not bring her back. But she's coming back. Give her a nice little payday. Maybe overpay her a little bit, but you're overpaying for more than just the player. You're paying for the personality. You're paying for the image of the team, essentially. Keeping one half of the big three. Big three would be Caitlin Clark, Lexi Hull. Also on this team, you're going to find out there's no Sophie Cunningham. I have a feeling that somebody's going to overpay. Not overpay, but is going to offer Sophie Cunningham a contract that the Fever just can't match. They just can't like compete with it, so she's gonna be not on this team. Not because the Fever don't want her back, just because there are other priorities on this team right now. And even though Sophie Cunningham is a sniper 3-point shooter, brings some attitude to this team. Um, she might be out of the pay range. She might be out of the bracket of the Fever for this next year. So yeah, the other player that's coming back that was on the team last year, Natasha Howard, returning player, was helpful in their awkward year last year. I think can be better in year two with this team. Keep her in the fold and give her a good price for her service. 2-year deal, no strings attached. You pay her what the market dictates, and you pay her for 2 years. Just again to keep some flexibility for the next couple years that you have to play Clark and Boston. Um, a player that is also still in the contract. That is a very young player, but I really liked in her time last year with the team is Michaela Timpson. Bring her back again, keep some familiarity. And then another player that I would like to bring back. I don't think they're gonna bring back though, but I think with the moving away from Sophie Cunningham, you do need another shooter. I would bring back Cole Bibby, who joined the team at some point during the weird bunch of weeks where players were injured, the Dewana Bonner situation, the Ariel McDonald situation where they had to let her go, but then you knew they were going to bring her back. She was on this weird roster last year, but I really liked her in a short amount of time with the team. Bring her back on a team friendly deal, 1-year deal, come back, shoot some threes. You're gonna have a bigger role. You're essentially gonna play the Sophie Cunningham role, and You might not start, but hey, there might be nights where you start and we need shooting. Um, Another player I want to bring in is Kia Nurse, just some roster filler, another shooter for AB and Caitlin Clark to shoot out, kick the ball out to. Just a 1 year deal, fair market value. She's sort of been trending downwards in her career, but maybe playing on a team with Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston, two really good passers for their position, can help her revive her career a little bit. And she spent this last season with the Chicago Sky, so she's very familiar with the Fever and what they do, and all that stuff. So maybe bring over to bring over to the dark side, from the Chicago Sky. Um, Now, the big one, the big fish, for this team that I want to bring in. And a lot of you are going to be like, why would you do that? Blah, 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 blah. Again, I'm using my same logic from last video and this video that the Seattle Storm will blow up their team essentially and move on from a lot of their vets. Now, this one is very subject to change. Obviously, if you can't get her, you bring back Kelsey Mitchell. This is the obvious thing to do. Even though it's not what I want to do, you would do that um, in the place of this person. But let me just say the name. It's Skylar Diggins. You bring in Skylar Diggins. I absolutely love Skylar Diggins. I think she is such a really attitude heavy player, no BS. Um, and I think that's what this team needs. Let me read my little synopsis for you here. Um, this is the big fish for the team in need of more leadership and a tougher backbone, along with a mentor for Caitlin Clark. Brings some much needed backcourt help that can coexist with Caitlin Clark and do some better game management than Mitchell. The play style with CC off the court won't change if Skylar is the lone guard out there. 4 year deal, player option on the 4th year, a bit of an overpay, but if she's going to help Caitlin Clark with her body, then I will happily pay it. Now, I know this might be an overreaction, but Caitlin Clark was injured a lot last year. Claims she's healthy. She played in the Caitlin Clark did the USA qualifier tournament thing. Um, she looked healthy. She looked fine. I want to bring in Skylar Diggins because she can help Caitlin Clark get her body right, make sure she has a long and healthy career. You're essentially paying for like a personal trainer along with an a WNBA player that can play with Caitlin Clark. I love Skylar Diggins' game management. Um, I love the stuff she does. She's done at multiple stops. I'm gonna use this term lovingly because I say it with NBA players like this player is a psycho, like they just love the game. Skylar Diggins is a bitch in the best way possible. She doesn't take any BS. She knows what she is. She knows what she does. She's played with other great guards. She's been by herself at some of her spots alone. Um, Her getting to play with Clark, I think, would form an amazing backcourt. And you bring in her with her skills, her leadership. It might clash a little bit, but that's what this team needs, And there's this line of thinking, and then there's the other line of thinking where, well, we keep the same team, we run it back. We weren't fully healthy. Let's just run it back. There's that. I'm fine with that too, I guess. Whatever. But turning over the roster a little bit, bringing in another personality like Skylar Diggins, who might clash with Coach Stephanie White, but you know what? People aren't really sold on Stephanie White as the coach anyway, so who knows? Maybe Skylar can help Stephanie White with the game management, with the other stuff, or maybe hey, she's going to expose Stephanie White a little bit, and it's going to help Stephanie White grow as a coach. That's what these great players do, and I think Skylar Diggins is sort of like Chris Paul in the NBA, or was in the NBA, where he's gonna make the team uncomfortable, but it's gonna be for the best. And this move is like bringing Chris Paul to the Suns when they had DeAndre Ayton, um, um, Mikal Bridges, Devin Booker. This team was cool by itself with Devin Booker. But now you need to bring in somebody who can be the real adult in the locker room and take those responsibilities and take those punches and give those punches to their teammates and to the other team as well. I absolutely love this idea. I came up with this one and I was like, does this make sense? And I started to talk myself into it. I was like, this does make sense. If they don't bring back Kelsey Mitchell or Kelsey Mitchell wants to go somewhere else, then you go try to get Skylar Diggins, an equally, maybe even more bigger of a fish than Kelsey Mitchell. Um, and the last player here for this Fever team is Marisha Hines Allen, who is basically just roster filler, but brings some more size to a team that was very guard heavy last year. Also brings some experience to the team that's trying to go into next season and go to the next level and not just off the one fluke couple playoff games they had to get to where they were. The Fever want to make sure that the WNBA knows they're legit and they're going to be contenders. And when this team is healthy, they're legit. Um, and the last player here, I don't know if I said Heinz Allen was the last player, but the other player, it's kind of a shot in the dark, but I just wanted to mention that this is my first repeat player that I think would fit on multiple teams. Is Stephanie Dolson. Would be a good backup to Aaliyah Boston, or maybe go double big and pair them together in the front court. Stephanie Dolson does have experience with that. When she was with the Liberty, she played with Jonquel Jones in the front court, and they made a devastating front court that um, did they? Yeah, that won them the championship. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Was that team? Yeah, that was that team. I think. Well, I got close to the championship. Um, I would sign her to a um, 1+1 year deal with a player option on the second year. And the Hines Allen contract, just to make sure you guys heard it, was a 2 year deal, no strings attached. So you bring some more size to this team, you bring some familiar faces back, and you try to bring in a more, no offense to Kelsey Mitchell, but a more competent guard, a more established guard, a bigger name to help Caitlin Clark out um, day to day. In my little synopsis of this roster as I made it, bring in more vets and size to help CC and AB have a simpler regular season while also bringing back some familiar faces. No Sophie Cunningham or no Kelsey Mitchell. I don't want to pay them. I need to open up some money to pay Clark and Boston in a few years' time, trying to keep this team competitive while not having anything long term, really. Because I think by the time, well, Boston has one more year left on her current deal, which is next year, and then you have to pay her. I think Boston next year is going to be incredible. I think she's really going to be, she might be the best center in the league next year. I don't think that's a hot take. I think that could be a fact. And then Caitlin Clark, Caitlin Clark's TBD, man. People are on her butt. They're on her butt. She needs to like shut everybody up next year, and prove she can be healthy, and prove that she can play some really high level basketball, not just like this fluky college stuff that she got away with her rookie year, the first year, and then obviously she tried to do it again in her second year, and it didn't really work out. And she got injured. She had a groin quad injury, and she had another injury that we weren't told about that set her back, and all this stuff. She needs to prove everybody wrong. And I think this team would do that. In my opinion, obviously it's my opinion because I made it. Okay, the last one here. Last one here. Finally ending up on the East Coast. Our last team in this mini series, the New York Liberty. Now this is a very awkward team, and this was the team I struggled with the most for multiple reasons. But the main reason being, you have a big four essentially. You have on the roster currently, as of right now, before the expansion draft, before all that stuff. You have Sabrina Ionescu, you have Brianna Stewart, you have Jonquel Jones, you have Natasha Cloud. All those players are like near max or like definitely max players. You cannot pay all those players that amount of money and keep a competitive roster around them, especially after the year last year where everybody was injured, nobody was healthy. If one of them, two of them goes down, this roster is absolutely abysmal, and it was abysmal last year. And you brought in Emma Misselman trying to fix some of the holes in the roster, and that turned out terribly. Um, I say all this to say, I I do not feel comfortable paying all four of those players the supermax. I feel comfortable maybe paying one of them the supermax, but I know this team wants to keep it together. They have a new coach. They have to keep some of their core around them because if you lose the core and you get a new head coach, you might as well just go in a rebuild. But if you have a new coach and you can keep the core, it's okay because the core can sort of communicate with the new head coach and the first time head coach that this is how we did things, this is how you do things in the WNBA. It helps the new coach learn how the WNBA works, especially with players that have been in the league a long time: Sabrina, Brianna, and Jonquel Jones. And as you notice, I mentioned those three players because Natasha Cloud's not coming back. I know, she's a fan favorite in New York. She loves New York herself. But I have to be completely honest. I haven't been impressed with her play over the last couple years. I haven't been impressed. And if she asks for anything more than a max or near a max, I am not completely comfortable doing that. And we need to pivot to something else. And that something else is this roster. They also do have a lot of people still under contract. They have Leone Fibic still under contract. They have Nara Sabali, who's still under contract, who these two players might be taken in the expansion draft. So they might not even be available to be taken or stay on the team. So there's that portion of this. But another player I want to bring back is Isabel Harrison. Bring her back on a team friendly deal. Um, Bring her back on a fair market value deal, 2 years, no strings attached. I think she's made some very positive steps in the right direction of her development. We'll see. Hopefully, if she stays on this team, can their new coach do what um, Sandy Brondello was able to do and try to bring Isabel Harrison back to life? She did have a pretty poor season last year, but there were some bright spots still. Um, I want her back, so starting off, that's Isabel Harrison, that's Leonie Fibic, and that's Nara Sabli back on this roster. You also bring back uh, Benijah Laney Hamilton, bring her back on a team friendly deal. I've seen enough in her improvement to bring her back. She's a good locker room presence too. 2 year deal, no strings attached. And to be quite honest, if it gets sticky, it gets very rough, and she might be your starting guard in the backcourt with Sabrina if things don't go well in the off season. That being said, however, other players, max players and supermax players that will be returning. Sabrina Escu, supermax. If I had to pay one person on this team, the super, it would be her for her years of service and the long-term support of this team from being bad to now being really good. Make it worth it for her to come back. There is also this lingering fear that I've put out there, and a lot of people have put out there in the WNBA space, that the fear of her going home to the Bay Area, to the now second year, will be their second year, Golden State Valkyries, scares me. It absolutely scares me that I know Sabrina calls New York her second home, but man, oh man, is there nothing like going home and playing for your home franchise? I could definitely see her doing it. I lock her up immediately. You do whatever she wants. You give her whatever she wants, because that's a big fear of mine personally, and for a lot of fans. I think for some Liberty fans as well, is if it don't work out here in New York, she's just gonna go home. She's gonna go home and play at home. Why wouldn't you want to play at home? You know. The next player that is coming back, with Sabrina, is Brianna Stewart. I have my. We'll get to it. I'd give her the supermax. Might be aging, but still has proven she can. She still has some left in the tank. Even if at the end of the career she just becomes a 3-and-D stretch big, it's worth it to keep an all-star big like that around for a few more years. She needs to improve her three-pointer again. It was abysmal last year. It was the worst year of her career shooting the three. It needs to improve. Um, Otherwise, pay her. And then the last max spot, maybe even not the max. I don't even know how this is going to work, because this is the only team that's in this situation, along with the Aces, is Jonquel Jones. You give her the max. You have to keep some of the band together from the championship run. Need to see more of her healthy, but less dependency on her with more bigs should help this team. And we'll get to the more bigs in a second here. Um, the more bigs being Isabel Harrison, who runs some five, Nara Sabli, who is a five, and some more players here that I will talk about in a second, that can help Jonquel Jones and help the rest of these players stay healthy, because they won't have to put that much mileage on their body throughout the regular season. Um, Moving into some players that will help subsidize the players that are claimed by expansion draft and leave in free agency. I want to bring in Demiris Dantes, a young forward who brings some more size and more switchability to a team with some older starting forwards. Helps with any combo of Harrison, Sably, and even can play with JJ and or Stewie, a 2 year deal, no strings attached. Demiris Dantes on the fever. Um, played very well last year. I really liked the minutes she got, um, but maybe perhaps looking for a bigger role, maybe perhaps looking for something else somewhere else. I think New York would be great for it. Demiris Dantas, um, another center slash forward that is going to help this team, um, coming from an expansion team to a very established team. To me, Fab Blaney, a backup big, more mobile, fits with the team if they want to run more and fill in some defensive holes if someone is injured. 1+1 year deal, um, team option on the second year. So you bring in to me Fab Blaney, who had a really solid season, just a solid season with the Valkyries last year. You bring her in, plays is a bit more mobile, is a bit smaller obviously than John Cole Jones, but sort of fits that more switchable, faster on their feet. Brianna Stewart is still a really good defender, but if people are gonna blow by Sabrina, you are gonna need somebody to at least just stand there with their hands up and look big. And at the worst, to me, Fablini can do that. I want to bring in a guard also to help Sabrina, obviously with the loss of um, Natasha Cloud. I want to bring in a player from from a championship hopeful team that didn't quite get there, changing sides a little bit, going to the dark side. Bridget Carlton, from the Minnesota Lynx to the New York Liberty, have another guard who fits well and fits well with Sabrina and will probably not start. Just give her a 1 year deal. Tell her to come out to New York, shoot a couple threes, do what she knows how to do, and help Sabrina in the backcourt. Now, the big fish for this team, it's on your screen. You've seen it right side of your screen. To me, Fab Blaney, bottom right of your screen, by the way. But middle right of your screen, um, I don't know if it will happen because she likes to chase money. She's about her money. She's about her finances. Jewel Lloyd does not mess around. Jewel Lloyd is who we're talking about. An older guard who might not want to come. Um, she wants to get paid, but getting her um, would provide some high level championship experience to a roster. Oh God, let me restart that. I didn't realize how long my sentence was here. An older guard who might not want to come if she's not going to get paid, but getting her would provide some depth and bring some high level championship experience to a roster that needs to win now. She showed that she can put her pride aside last year in the playoffs, where she got benched by Coach Becky Hammond on the Aces run to a championship. A 3 year deal, player option on the third year. So this triggered me. This move triggered me because in a positive way, because it was rumored that she might have that the trade for her, instead of going to the Aces last year, was to New York. So finally get to New York. I don't know if she really wanted to end up in New York. It was just a destination that was good. But getting to New York, a place that was known, that was on her list of teams she wanted to go to anyway. So she ends up in New York finally, brings some experience. Uh, she had some moments last year where she was really bad. She got moved to the bench. She started playing a little bit better, and then the playoffs she really stepped up, and she really impressed me personally, both defensively and offensively in moments, especially against the um, the Fever and the eventual runner-ups in the Phoenix Mercury. So you bring in Jewel Lloyd, a backcourt partner for Sabrina, somebody with championship experience, reuniting. I just realized this, reuniting Jewel Lloyd and Brianna Stewart in New York, which would be crazy, and bringing in somebody who is a guard and sometimes can play a little forward in some spot minutes. So maybe you could run a little small ball, out there. Who knows? Um, Also, not the most consistent person anymore, but you bring in, you keep Leone Fibic, um, you get Bridget Carlton, and hopefully Jewel Lloyd helps out when Brianna Stewart is struggling, when Sabrina is struggling, because we both have seen them struggle throughout the regular season and even in the finals. When they won the finals, they had terrible final the last game. So, yeah, you bring in Jewel Lloyd, who might be able to help. The more bodies, the better. And my last little paragraph about this team that I built, the New York Liberty, this offseason. This one is the biggest shot in the dark since they have a new coach, and I do not know what his philosophies are, even if even if they are Warriors like. He used to be a Warriors assistant coach, so I don't know if he wants to run a Warriors type of system or he wants to do his own thing. I don't know. Um, But I wanted to make this team a bit more athletic while keeping the experienced players on the team to help the new coach, keeping the locker room the same while having some new faces join that are complementary to the stars but can also play some of the same roles in their place. So if Sabrina gets injured, you have Jewel Lloyd, you have Bridget Carlton. If Brianna Stewart needs to rest or Jonquel Jones needs to rest, you have Nara Sabli, you have Isabel Harrison, you bring in Demiris Dantas, um, bring in new faces. We'll come in. Lastly, I think Izzy and Lainey Hamilton are going to um, step up and help their team as players who can hopefully return and not be claimed by the expansion draft. So yeah, the expansion draft is going to be very critical for um, the last two teams I mentioned, the Fever and the Liberty, to see who they are able to keep and who doesn't get claimed because they might get hit by it badly. But yeah, that's it. That's the last video in this mini series about the Dream Off seasons for these WNBA teams, 6 of them in total. If you enjoyed this series, um, like it. The outro should be playing right now. On the left side of the screen is a video. You can click it. It will take you right to the next one. Take you right to that one that you click. On the right side of your screen, you can check out my road to the 2026 WNBA draft. And if you click my icon in the middle of the screen, you click it, a little subscribe button will pop up. Hit that subscribe button and stay in tune, informed with WNBA stuff and NBA stuff, some college stuff as well. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you on next time. Cheers.